Hi English students. So for this video I would like to expand on the concept of creating outlines. So in your chapter in the OER on pre-writing steps, it lists creating an outline as one of the ways that you can organize your paper. So what I did was I thought about how in the idea map, the ideas were organized, but it was more of a kind of a free write. And then I thought about what if I was to take that idea map and develop it even more into an outline. I took that topic of exploring why a person like me would want to be an English major, and I developed a tentative outline to help me develop my ideas. So say I wanted to write a paper about this, I had to write a career report, and I was talking about getting an English degree. And I wanted to develop those ideas into an outline. I could start off with, my first idea would potentially be my introduction. And so I can just have this as a placeholder if I like for my outline. Your outline is your organizational device. If you are creating an outline on your own just to begin writing your paper. Sometimes the teacher will ask for a specific way to create an outline. So pay attention to those details if your teacher wants you to create it in a specific kind of way. But for my own purposes, I'm not a big fan of very detailed outlines. I like to be a little bit more creative, so mine would be a little bit more sparse, and then I would develop it later on in the paper. So I could start off with an introduction to English degrees. We've all heard the jokes, right? Do you want fries with that degree? So in my paper, I would potentially want to combat that myth that English degrees lack value, because I would argue that they do have value, and they have lots of value. And so when I start off my introduction in my outline, I might want to start off with a tentative thesis. I find that for students, creating a thesis statement is sometimes a stumbling block for people who are perfectionists. You don't have to have a perfect thesis statement in order to write an outline. Writing is a process. So if I wanted, I could start off with a thesis that could help me organize, but is maybe not as strongly worded as I would like it to be. That's okay. I can revise it later on, because remember, writing's a process. So I might have a tentative thesis, something like this: earning a degree in English. Prepares a student for higher education, because one of the goals might be that you want to keep on going to school. Why? Because school is fun and you have more opportunities the more degrees that you have for higher education, right? The job market. And I had one more, and personal fulfillment. Why not? So, what I might want to do when I'm thinking about structure and I'm thinking about writing a paper where I'm going to have a thesis, I might want to have a counter argument. I could start off with that in my first body paragraph. And so what I could do is, because I'm already, since up here I'm kind of talking about stereotypes, right? That people would say that the degree potentially lacks value. Here I'm going to combat that stereotype by talking about why it's wrong. And so under the second Roman numeral, I could put in supporting points that I would want to expand on in the actual paper. So supporting points could be things like facts. I could prove it's actually fact that English majors not more likely to go to work in fast food. That was just a mean joke that was perpetuated throughout time. But other things that I could definitely talk about would be that, perhaps where this stereotype originated from is the fact that sometimes it does take a bit longer to get your foot in the door when you earn a humanities degree. So a little longer to start out in careers. For me, it took about, over 10 years before I felt like I had a career in place. But compared with other degrees, it evens out. That evens out over time. And so what I would also want to do is cite evidence that I gathered to prove this. Okay, and then I can move on to my next point. So my next point would be about the benefits. So I've already talked about potential ways people could argue with me and how I would debate them. And then I could go into those points that I was talking about in the idea map, like the fact that you do have marketable skills if you have a major in English. Things like, and I'm going to run out of room, writing, good skill, editing, communication. How far down am I? I'm already running out of room. Okay, and so 1, 2, 3 other points that I would also potentially want to hit on and then use this same structure would be things like I would want to go into grad school opportunities, go into some of the fields or disciplines that English can prepare you for. So, things like creative writing, professional writing, writing. And even potentially law school too. I've run out of room. But so after I have these, so I already have placeholders for my different paragraphs. You can tell by the Roman numerals, this will be a paragraph, this will be a paragraph. And I will want to expand on these in the actual paper with evidence and analysis. And those are topics that we will cover in another video. But for now, here's our last potential paragraph, and then you would want to have a conclusion. But this is a good way to just think about how you can structure your essays that you're writing for class. You have lots of different pre-writing options before you even start a rough draft. So the likelihood of you writing a strong rough draft increases if you do some extra pre-planning. So go ahead and try out these stages as you start to write papers for class, and hopefully you will be able to figure out your own writing process that works best for you. Thanks.